All right, welcome back to the show. It has been a couple of weeks, and the reason for that being, if you didn't read my channel post or announcement, whatever you want to call it, I was on vacation, and boy, did a lot happen while I was on vacation. So my parting gift from vacation was a nice little cold. So if I sound sick, that is why. I also have some house construction going on this week, so between me feeling like shit from being sick and just work being done on my house, it's going to be a little bit spotty for my uploads this week, so I will upload when I can. Anyways, let's talk about what's been going on in LA. If you've been living under a rock, LA is on fire right now. It is like a war zone. You can look up all the videos, you can look up all the footage. It is crazy. And this stems from a series of ICE raids that took place, I want to say, sometime last week, where they just said, since there isn't as many violent criminals as we claim there were, we're just going to go to job sites now and arrest undocumented workers. And that caused a lot of blowback. And the National Guard has been sent in. Trump is now deploying Marines. It is insane, to say the least. And I think it's important to note, from everything that I've read and seen on the ground, a lot of these protests were peaceful until the moment that Trump deployed the National Guard and also the Marines. All it did was throw fuel on the fire, even per the the LAPD, their commissioner or whatever. It was like they were like, we could handle this. Just throwing the military in the National Guard is just making things worse. And that it is. Before we get into an AP article I have, it's very good, kind of gives a recap of everything going on and what's happening as of right now. I want to talk about some things because I do have some issues with these protests. And no, it's probably not what you think. One thing, my biggest issue here has been, this is going to be me sounding like a right-wing hack here for a second, but please bear with me. My biggest issue is the prevalence of Mexican flags and just foreign flags in general, with any exceptions to Palestinian flags, because that's a whole different conversation. But this whole waving Mexican flags, foreign flags, is just optically terrible. Okay, it's just terrible. We should be at these protests showing up with American flags. We should look like patriots. Just the images coming out of people waving Mexican flags in front of burning cars, I'm going to be honest, it doesn't look good to your average normie, and it certainly does not look good to the right, and it's not good optically. I can't see a single reason why you would be waving Mexican flags. This isn't a foreign policy issue. This isn't some relations issue with Mexico. This is strictly on immigration, and this is affecting people from several nationalities and countries. So just the waving of the Mexican flags is just very, very weird to me. And some of the things that the right-wingers are talking about is kind of valid, in the sense of, why would you come to the U.S. from a country you fled from just to wave their flag? Like, I don't get it. I can't see the optics for it. Like, it just looks bad. Okay. But let me be clear. I 100% support these protests and the message behind them. And I can only say so much in terms of my support with, being at risk of breaking YouTube terms of service or having the Gestapo show up at my door because they think I'm inciting violence or whatever. But I will say this. Overall, I am in full support of these protests. Like people said, we need to be more like the French. What else are people supposed to do when we are staring down the barrel of fascism? What are we supposed to do? Like, you tell me. So yeah, like, we need to stop waving these foreign flags. I still support your cause and everything about it. You can go look through my history. I am a staunch supporter of immigration, but waving the Mexican flag, I'm sorry, you are not going to win over normies in that sense. I think that's all I wanted to say on that. Like, For the love of God, just wave the American flag. You came here, wave the U.S. flag. This whole Mexico flag thing, Mexican flag, it's just not a good look optically, and I don't think it's going to help your cause in the long term. Anyways, and while we're on the subject of me being annoyed with just the strategy of protesters lately, is, as many of you know, June 14th is coming. It is Flag Day, Trump's birthday, and also we are set for Trump's big military parade. And whether it's the 50-51 movement or the hands-off protest, the No Kings protest, etc., they all seem to have this alignment strategy for that, which is Washington, D.C., there should be no protest there whatsoever. That is where the military parade is being held. And their rationale behind this is they want it to be a ghost town. Now, I'm just going to be completely candid and honest with you. I think that is fucking stupid. Okay? You have to be living in your own echo chamber and your own delusions to think that there still aren't millions of sycophantic Trump MAGA supporters that are going to show up to that rally. Heck, they're probably even going to pay people to come and show up to that rally. And how do I know this? Simply because of how much they like to say that every Democratic protest is paid, or even the LA riots are paid. It's all projection. We always say this. Every accusation is an admission. So, like, it's delusional to think that not showing up, that Washington, D.C. is going to be a ghost town for Trump's military parade. You're insane. I'm sorry. What we should be doing is disrupting that parade. We should be disruptive and peacefully protesting it. Civil disobedience is the best way I can put it. And at the very least, we should have people there waving anti-Trump signs, anti-fascism signs. Make it hard for their media to cover it, because if you pan around, you're just going to see a bunch of anti-Trump stuff. But instead, we want to do protest in every other area except for DC in hopes that it'll make it look like a ghost town and whatever. My personal opinion is that is stupid. But with that being said, you should absolutely show up to the June 14th protest in your area, wherever that may be. I just wanted to get that off my chest because it's exhausting. Like, I don't know. Anyways, moving on. You're just going to be giving Trump a major W. Okay, ranting aside, let's talk about the LA protest and where we stand. So I have a good article here from AP. Trump authorizes an additional 2,000 National Guard members to Los Angeles, U.S. officials say. Another 2,000 National Guard troops, along with 700 Marines, are headed to Los Angeles on orders Monday from President Donald Trump, escalating a military presence local officials and Governor Gavin Newsom don't want, and the police chief says creates logistical challenges for safely handling protests. And again, as I said earlier, a lot of these protests were largely peaceful until Trump, put his grubby orange hands in and started deploying the National Guard and Marines. And since then, it's all been downhill. And a lot of the violent things you're seeing were instigated by the police, showing up, firing rubber bullets at reporters, crowds, tear gas, flashbangs. Like, what do you expect? What do you honestly expect? Anyways, an initial 2,000 guard troops ordered by Trump started arriving Sunday, which saw the most violence during 3 days of protests driven by anger over Trump's stepped-up enforcement of immigration laws that critics say are breaking apart migrant families. Monday's demonstrations was far less ruckus. Sometimes I think I can't read, and then I actually look at some of the wording in these articles, and I don't think people can type. With thousands peacefully attending a rally at City Hall and hundreds protesting outside a federal complex that includes a detention center where some immigrants are being held following workplace raids across the city, Trump has described Los Angeles in dire terms that Mayor Karen Bass and Newsom say are nowhere close to the truth. They say he is putting public safety at risk by adding military personnel, even though police say they don't need the help. Los Angeles Police Chief Jim McDonnell said in a statement he was confident in the police department's ability to handle large-scale demonstrations, and that Marines' arrival without coordinating with the police department presented a significant logistical and operational challenge for them. And like they're sending these like National Guardsmen and Marines there with like no food, no shelter, no plan, and they're just like there's pictures coming out of them just laying on the floor, just trying to sleep because they just weren't provided with anything. So that's wonderful. Newsom called the deployments reckless and disrespectful to our troops in a post on the social platform X. This isn't about public safety, Newsom said. It's about stroking a dangerous president's ego. The protest began Friday in downtown Los Angeles after federal immigration authorities arrested more than 40 people across the city. The smell of smoke hung in the air downtown Monday, one day after crowds blocked a major freeway and set self-driving cars on fire as police responded with tear gas, rubber bullets, and flashbang grenades. Additional protests against immigration raids continued into the evening on Monday in several other cities, including San Francisco and Santa Ana in California, and Dallas and Austin in Texas. So as a kind of a showing of solidarity with the LA protesters, you have protests breaking out in other cities. So between that and what's going on in LA and the June 14th protests coming up this weekend, it's going to be crazy. I have no idea what's going to happen. California pushes back against presence of federal troops. California Attorney General Rob Bonta filed a lawsuit over the use of National Guard troops following the first deployment, telling reporters in his announcement Monday that Trump had trampled the state's sovereignty. We don't take lightly to the president abusing his authority and unlawfully mobilizing California's National Guard troops, Bonta said. He saw a court order declaring Trump's use of National Guard unlawful and asking for a restraining order to halt the deployment. You know, it's funny because Trump's going through all this effort for law and order and whatever when he pardoned like 1,500 January 6ers who literally were actually committing an insurrection. At least you can look at the devastation going on in LA and say like, hey, this is because people are being ripped out of their homes, families are being torn apart due to ICE raids, and people who are even here legally or going through the process to be here legally are being arrested and just shipped off. Like, it's crazy. So you can say whatever you want about the riots, violent, whatever. Okay. Like when you compare what the left riots about versus what the right riots about, you can at least see some clear, obvious things on what the motives are. One side is fighting for human rights, immigrant rights. The other side was storming the Capitol building to keep Trump in office, even though he lost the election. Anyways, Trump said Monday that the city would have been completely obliterated if he had not deployed the Guard. U.S. officials said that Marine troops were deployed to protect federal property and personnel, including federal immigration agents. Trump's Monday order put more National Guard members on active duty, but one U.S. official warned that the order was just signed and it could take a day or two to get troops moving. The official spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss troop movements. Despite their presence, there has been limited engagement so far between the Guard and protesters while local law enforcement implements crowd control. Like, the fact that we're even floating the idea of, it's one thing that we're sending the National Guard, it's completely another thing to even float sending the Marines. You think the Marines are trained for crowd control? What do you want the Marines to do? Just go and start lighting people up? Like, what are we doing? If you don't see this as clearly a fascist authoritarian move, then I don't know what to tell you. And back to the January 6th stuff, if Trump had all this power and authority to just deploy the National Guard and troops at will, where were they during January 6th? Like, I'm tired of hearing, oh, Nancy Pelosi denied the National Guard. That's bullshit. Like, oh, God. These people are sick. So, let's see. Did I read this? Bass criticized the deployment of National Guard troops and Marines as a deliberate attempt by the Trump administration to create disorder and chaos in our city. She made a plea to the federal government, stop the raids. Early protests remained peaceful. On Monday, thousands flooded the streets around City Hall for a union rally ahead of a hearing for arrested labor leader David Huerta, who was freed a few hours later on a rallying cry for people angry over the administration's crackdown. He is the president of the Service Employees International Union California, which represents thousands of states, janitors, security officers, and other workers. Earlier protests had a calm, even joyful atmosphere at times, with people dancing to live music and buoyed by Huerta's release. Protesters linked hands in front of a line of police officers outside the downtown federal detention center where Huerta was being held. Religious leaders joined the protesters, working with organizers at time to de-escalate moments of tension. There was a heavy law enforcement present in the few square blocks, including the federal detention facility, while most in the immense city of some 4 million people went about their normal business on peaceful streets. Chanting against a line of National Guard troops with Homeland Security officers behind them, surrounding the federal buildings, ramped up in the afternoon as people yelled, "Free them all," and "National Guard, go away." As the crowd thinned, police began pushing protesters away from the area, firing crowd control munitions as people chanted peaceful protests. Officers became more aggressive in their tactics in the evening, occasionally surging forward to arrest protesters that got too close. At least a dozen people remaining in the busy little Tokyo neighborhood were surrounded by police and detained. Other protests took shape Monday across LA County. Outside a Los Angeles clothing warehouse, relatives of detained workers demanded at a news conference in the morning that their loved ones be released. The family of Jacob Vasquez, 35, who was detained Friday at the warehouse where he worked, said they had yet to receive any information about him. Jacob is a family man and the sole breadwinner of his household, Vasquez's brother Gabriel told the crowd. He asked that his name not be used, fearing being targeted by authorities. Several dozen people were arrested in protests throughout the weekend. Authorities say one was detained Sunday for throwing a Molotov cocktail at police and another for ramming a motorcycle into a line of officers. The deployment appeared to be the first time in decades that the state's National Guard was activated without a request from its governor, and a significant escalation against those who have sought to hinder the administration's mass deportation efforts. And this is crazy. So the last time the National Guard was deployed without the authorization of the state's governor, because that's normally how it's supposed to go, the governor requests it, and the federal government would oblige, and etc. The last time the National Guard was activated without a governor's permission was in 1965 when President Lyndon B. Johnson sent troops to protect a civil rights march in Alabama, according to the Brennan Center for Justice. In a directive Sunday, Trump invoked a legal provision allowing him to deploy federal service members when there is a rebellion or danger of a rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States. Funny, where was that same justification in use during the January 6th insurrection? Yeah, nowhere to be found because you don't care about law and order. You're a felon yourself, and you pardoned 1,500 criminals, like 400 of them being actually violent criminals, along with all the fraudsters you pardoned, and you pardoned the founder of the Silk Road. Like, what are we talking about here? You don't care about law and order. You just care about protecting your agenda and just absolutely going full gloves off against anything you disagree with. And here's just another little cherry on top. Trump endorses arrest of Gavin Newsom. So that's fun. Gavin Newsom is daring Tom Homan. This was asked by a reporter to Trump. Gavin Newsom is daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Ducey asked Trump in a video captured by CNN cameras, should he do it? Trump endorsed the idea of responding, "I would do it if I were Tom." Like, okay, this is like case number 55 of Trump endorsing the arrest of a political adversary. So yeah, like, I just don't know what people expect. This is about David Huerta and how he was arrested. Labor unions around the U.S. rallied together on Monday to demand the release of a labor leader arrested and injured during immigration and customs enforcement raids in Los Angeles. David Huerta, president of SEIU California and SEIU-USWW, was serving as a community observer during an ICE raid in Los Angeles and was arrested on Friday, federal agents over allegations of interfering. He was initially hospitalized and released later on Friday for injuries sustained during the arrest. That's crazy. Videos circulating online show officers shoving Huerta to the ground during the arrest before handcuffing him. So that is where we are at as a country. Just full hypocrisy on display, and I just don't know where we go from here. It's going to be interesting to see how the next week or two plays out. Just remember, like, this is what happens when you just arrest people who never committed a crime and are just trying to live their lives while they're working at job sites or at schools or even outside courtrooms where they are trying to follow the legal process, but you arrest them anyways. This is what happens when you are deporting and rounding up people who are illegally here on TPS or asylum status and just trying to revoke them because, whatever, I guess Haiti is a fine place to go back to. And same with Afghanistan by their logic. Or, the people who are permanent green card holders like Mosa Madawi and Mahmoud Khalil. And like, I just don't get it. For anyone who is so anti-immigration, I challenge you to find me one study that shows that immigrants are causing mass crime, that immigrants are taking our jobs, or that immigrants are taking federal benefits that are meant to go to other people. Please find me some study that indicates this on a mass scale. Because none of this is the case, and this is all just a distraction instead of addressing the real issues in this country, like the vast wealth inequality, the lack of affordable health care, the lack of a living minimum wage, where you have people working, several jobs full time just to barely get by, skyrocketing grocery prices, like all these resources being poured into immigration enforcement. And the government pretending that this is going to solve all those issues is just crazy. Like, no, it's the fucking immigrants that are the reason why we have all these issues. Oh my God, we're so lost as a country, but I'm glad people are starting to rise up. And again, what are you supposed to do when you're staring down the barrel of the gun of fascism? You tell me. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next one. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to give a special thank you. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button down below, and if you really enjoyed it, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button while you're down there. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I will try to reply to any and all comments that I can. Until next time, watch that video on screen.